All right, so welcome back to the stream, everyone. Tonight we're going to be looking into Reaktor and using modulation sequencing. So we're going to use that to unlock dynamic movement in Reaktor. Hey everyone, welcome back to the stream today. We're going to be diving into a super fun sound design trick in Reaktor using the 4Mod sequencer. So to add movement to our sounds, this is what we're going to use. Whether you're making ambient textures, crazy bass lines, or even evolving pads, this trick will bring your patches to life. And we're going to start off by opening up our version of Reaktor. And by the end of this session, you should know how to set up a sequenced modulation system. So that changes your sound pretty much automatically, and there'll be no need for manual tweaking. So let's jump right in. So when you open up Reaktor, we're going to have three different sections. One is the play section, one is the patch section, and lastly, we have the build section. We're going to jump into the build section today because it gives us the most flexibility to build out our sound design creations. So I'm going to open up the patch section, the build section, and first thing we're going to do, we're going to create our base patch. So I'm going to start off with a simple oscillator and a state variable filter, and we're going to build it out from there. So we go into Reaktor. We're going to have in the bento box collection, we're going to have an oscillator. We're also going to need a few more components to build this out. Note in. We're also going to need a filter. And finally, we're going to need a amp. So that's the last piece. And we're going to also need a clock. So I'm going to bring in a clock and just a few more components that I think we might need. I think that's going to be a mix. If we want to blend multiple oscillators together, we're going to need that. And finally, I'm going to connect an envelope. I think those are basic building blocks that we're going to need to build this out. Because then I can connect our 4-step mod sequencer to our filter, to our oscillator, and to an effect that I may add. So I'm going to add in one more thing actually. Probably add in an effect, go into the blocks collection, go into our round section, bring in some reverb and delay. And then we're going to need probably, we're going to need our 4Mod. So we're going to grab that from our bento box collection. This is the star of the show. And we're going to grab an 8-step sequencer as well. This makes it a little bit more complex, but we're going to need it. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to connect my pitch inputs, VCA, and we're not going to connect our effects yet. I'm going to grab two different oscillators this time, probably from our blocks collection. Going to find a oscillator that we like. So going into blocks, let's grab up a multi-wave oscillator, and we'll connect that to our sine. So we have two oscillators now. We're going to mix them together, blend the signals. And once we have that, we're going to connect this to our filter. Okay. And then we are going to bring in our clock. So we're going to connect our two oscillators to our clock. First, we need to test if it's working. So I'm going to organize my panel a little bit with our node in inputs. Bring over our clock. Bring our mix knob to the left. Bring our envelope. Our reverb can stay behind our VCA. And we can leave it like that. We can initiate the clock. And then I'm going to make sure that there's note in signal. So we're going to quit this program. So that's fine. So I'm going to turn up the VCA first. And we're going to get signal coming out. So let's do that. There we go. and our pitch knobs. We don't hear anything yet because we need to turn up our mix. So we can hear a sine wave and we can hear our multi-wave oscillator going at the same time. If you want to visualize this waveform, we can essentially grab a scope to visualize the waveform, and it looks like that. So you can see our waveform right here, and it's a basic raw form. We can shape that waveform over time, but for now I'm going to leave it as is. I'm going to reorganize our panel just a little bit. And that looks good to me. So I can change that. So we have two waveforms. One is a pulse and one is a sine. So I'm going to turn up our sine wave. Add a little bit of the pulse wave. A little bit of sub. Little air. Okay, and then we're going to connect, now that everything's working, I'm going to connect our 8-step to our pitch inputs. And our 8-step sequencer is going to run the whole thing for us. So we got to connect our gate as well. And our clock. So our clock is going to work like that. And hit reset. So we're going to add some notes to our clock so it can step through them. So now we're running through notes. I'm going to remove that little hiss. As you can hear, we have our notes going. We can change the time of the notes that we have. We can change the speed or BPM. I'm going to put it back at 120 and 16th notes. Then we can add some legato if we want to, so the notes are smoothly going from one to the other. Next, I'm going to add in our effects. Actually, we're not going to add in our effects yet. First, I'm going to connect our 4 mods to our actual synthesizer, and we can tweak it from there. So let's slow down and let's hear what we have so far, which is this. So I'm going to add the modulation now. I'm going to connect my mod to my note in. Sure, that's the wrong connection. Let's just do that again. We're going to connect it to our clock, because clock is going to be driving the signal, as in what happens. We're going to connect it to reset, just as we do our 8-step. And from the 8-step, we can then, now we have output controls from our modulation to connect to whatever we want. I also didn't connect my filter, my envelope, so I'm going to connect that now to my VCA. And so we have envelope control. So I'm going to turn my VCA all the way down, and here when we press a note, well, you're not going to hear anything, but when we press a note, you can see that modulation is lighting up. We can turn on positive modulation, and now when I play a note, now when I play a note, you can hear um, that the envelope is engaging. So let's keep going with this. I'm going to connect my gate back to my 8-step sequencer so my sequencer can run it, and I can go hands-free. And then I'm going to add in our 4 mods. So it's going to look like this. So we're going to add it to the filter cutoff first, because we have 4 different outputs on our 4 mods, which we can use to our advantage to carve out a sound and modulate those sounds. So this is where it gets exciting. Now that everything's built out, I haven't added my effects yet, but I'm holding off on that so that we can manipulate what we have right here. So next thing we're going to do, you can see our whole patch, we can see our waveform, and we can see our 4 mods. It's running in the background, but you don't hear any sound yet because it's not outputting to anything. So I'm going to put my VCA there, just reorganizing our panel as we go so that things stay in a order where we can kind of predictably see our signal flow and what our patch looks like. So we put quite a lot of blocks in here, so it's good to see, to visualize them. You can even control them from here if you really want to. Whoop, I disconnected the gate, so I'm going to put that back. You can do it here, or you can do it from the visual panel. So we can take our gate control, connect it back into the clock. It's a little far, but it can still be done if we want to. Connect it back into our clock, and then we have a clock signal controlling the 4 mods. So that's that so far. And now I'm going to connect it into our first thing. We'll connect it to our, let's undo that. Give it a signal. Going to connect it to our envelope. So now we can control our 4 mods on input 1. You can see signals going through. Let's do another one, our oscillator pitch. So we go back to our oscillator. Let's grab our filter cutoff. grab the one more thing. Let's connect one to our effects. So I'm going to bring in, introduce some effects. And connect to 4 mod. You can see it's affecting the tone. You can change the speed. You can see the waveform. You can play with the envelope. Play with the release. Make your notes a little longer. We can introduce a little bit of delay. Just showing you what's possible. I don't like the delay so much, so I'm going to take that off. You can actually, since we're not using it, we can remove it from our patch. And there you have it. You have a finished 4 mods patch, 8-step sequence, and it plays itself. So feel free to take this idea, run with it, build out your own design, and keep creating. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you'd like to see me make next in another session. And happy sound designing. Keep sound designing. Keep making sounds. Peace out.